and those participating in the meeting have given consent to their inclusion. The recording will be available on the City Corporation's YouTube channel following the meeting, and it shall be retained for up to 1 civic year. Whilst we endeavour to live stream all our public meetings, technical difficulties may sometimes prevent live broadcast. In these instances, we aim to upload a recording after the end of the meeting. All personal data will be processed in accordance with the Data Protection Act 2018, and for any further information on that, please feel free to contact us. Please be aware that microphones will be on a low level at all times and background sounds could be picked up.
Not in this room. Luckily, we've got, no, that's fine. We can amend the script for the room. Thank you, Town Clerk. First of all, I've got some apologies listed. Deputy Marianne Fredericks, Deputy Henry Pollard, Alderman Simon Pryke, Deputy Nikat Qureshi, Naresh Sompar. We'd also like to welcome Dawn Wright to the meeting. You're very welcome back into, I think, is it back on planning? You've been on before, you've done the training, ready to go. I think that's everybody. Is that everyone who's been welcomed? Have you been welcome before? Yes, I think. Is this your first committee? Oh, well, very much welcome, David Williams, to your first full grand committee. And you've done the training as well. Fantastic. So we're all up and running. We also have apologies from William. Does anyone have any items they'd like to declare under the Code of Conduct in terms of what's on the agenda today? No? Great. We're going to move on, therefore, on to the minutes of the meeting, which was last held on the 2nd of December. I was away for that. So, Deputy Chairman, you took the meeting, didn't you? Any matters arising or questions from those minutes? I think, Alison, you have a question arising.
My question was about the minutes from the March meeting, and from the July meeting, which haven't yet been published, but will be at the March meeting. So that was my query. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you very much. In which case, are we happy to agree those minutes? Very good. Thank you very much. Okay. Let me just turn my page. Item 4. This is an item which comes back to us at the same time every year, which is the annual review of this committee's terms of reference. I don't think we need to present this. However, I think, Alison, you have a question about a rather opaque paragraph, admittedly, in it.
The paragraph D on page 10, and it says all what this committee has is all functions regarding the city walkway, and then it says other than Barbican podium, and then it seems to then go on to say what the Barbican podium requirements are, which is all very, very confusing. And I wanted either that it should be looked at again to make it clearer. I don't know who does have the rights about city walkway on the Barbican podium. So could we just perhaps unpick some of that? I'm told from my left it's CCS that have the Barbican podium city walkways, but we don't need to write their terms of reference here. We just need to write our terms of reference.
So do we first of all have an answer from perhaps, or an explanation from Town Clerk on what that paragraph means?
We don't have one at the moment, but I can arrange to get one in writing for all members if that will help.
Okay. Deputy Chair?
Chair, just from memory, if I recall correctly, it's the promotion of the works on the Barbican podium that isn't under the purview of this committee. The highways, the high walks are still our responsibility. It's just the promotion of the works to do with the Barbican podium that I think was given across. But that's just from memory rather than a technical answer.
I think the planning director might be able to.
I think that's correct. This is for promotion of works, and it's to ensure the separation of duties between the statutory planning side and the promotional side.
Is that a bit clearer, Alison?
Well, I mean, I think I was sort of reading that into it, but it's a bit awkward to find that out. I'm glad to know officers and members do know that, as including others here, but I just feel that would be helpful, because on the Barbican podium, we've got city walkway, we've got city highway, we've got Barbican walkway, there's all sorts of bits of different kinds of legislation over bits and pieces of the Barbican podium. So that is quite tricky in my view.
I agree. It's not brilliantly written. Can I suggest we approve the terms of reference, but the proviso with myself in consultation with the Town Clerk kind of find a slightly more legible form of words for that. That doesn't change its meaning. Great. And by the way, you don't have to stand up in this committee, given these are very small microphones. and it might be tricky. Thank you. I think we're going to approve those. Turning now to item 5. Item 5 is on page 11 of your pack, the revenue and capital budgets. Now, Deputy's here to not to present, but to take questions for this kind of annual submission that hopefully you'll have had a chance to read. Any questions on it? I think not. So this is to approve. Duly approved. Moving on then, item 6. Item 6 is the Environment Department high-level business plan. We have the Environment Director here as well, Executive Director here. I think Joe Hill will be presenting this report. Joe.
Thank you, Chairman. This report presents the Environment Department's high-level business plan for 2020 to 2030. This is a top-level strategic plan that just sets out the priority work streams for the parts of the department that report to this committee. We moved to a multi-year business plan last year, and the 5-year work streams were approved by your committee as part of that. We've now reviewed and refreshed the business plan to include the detail for 26-27. So it is for your decision and approval, and we're happy to take any questions.
Very good. Any questions? Alison Gelman.
Yeah, I've got a few questions on the aims, and these may already have been agreed somewhere else, and maybe it's not time to intervene. But bullet point 2, it says encourage the construction. I wonder whether it could include and retrofit of high quality, safe and inclusive buildings. Construction, to my mind, does rather imply new build, but you could say it does also include retrofit. The next point, providing spaces for businesses to grow, improve, transport and maintain our unique historic environment. I'd quite like promote instead of maintain, or maintain and promote our unique historic environment. And then the next point, we're talking about inclusive, accessible, healthy square mile with clean streets and air. I know it's repeating the word accessible, but I wondered whether we could have clean, accessible streets and air. So 3 points, retrofit under bullet point 2, promoting our historic environment under 3, bullet point 3, and making sure that our streets are clean and accessible under 4.
Executive Director.
Okay, thank you for the question and for the suggestion. So I'm quite happy with those. I will defer to Joe just in terms of the process, whether we still have an opportunity to update. If we do, then we'll accept those changes.
Yes, so this the plan will be finalised, taking into account any comments from yourselves today, and then it will go be in force from April, but with those comments incorporated. So we're happy to take those.
Content? Great, fantastic. In which case, any more questions before I move to a vote? Are we happy potentially with those amendments to approve? Thank you very much. Okay, we're now going to move on to item 7. Very topical politically at the moment, Government and Greater London Authority consultations on boosting housing delivery. Now, where are we? Gudrun, you're here. Are you going to present this? I can't remember if you're presenting. Yeah, you will.
Yeah, I can give a very brief introduction. Yeah, so this relates to 2 separate side-by-side consultations run by the government and the GLA. It's around, as the chair says, around the boosting housing and affordable housing delivery. It relates to 50% reduction in the SIL liability, so community infrastructure levy liability from residential streams. That doesn't include shared living or student proposals. Amendments to the Mayor's fast track approach to affordable housing in the London plan. Changes to some of the London plan design guidance in relation to dual aspect dwellings and cycle parking, and some changes to the Mayor's call-in powers in relation to medium scale residential developments. The proposed consultation responses in Appendix 1 and 2 are broadly supportive of the approaches, but do contain some concerns with it, whether the aims will bring out, whether they'll achieve their aims in terms of bringing schemes through at a greater pace. In terms of the city corporation, we don't think it really has any or very minimal implications, but due to the we don't have residential schemes, purely residential schemes in our pipeline. Our pipeline is currently largely student and non-self-contained dwellings. and we also have so we don't think it'll have any implications on the CIL income coming through. And these measures are also time limited until various points in 2028.
Fantastic, thank you, Gudrun. So essentially, this is an attempt for those boroughs that do larger amounts of housing delivery to make that more viable for developers to actually get it built. Correct. Will anything like that be happening for us in terms of the commercial real estate on the viability side in the coming year?
If I may take that question, Chairman, thank you. Yes, certainly there are concerns across the built environment sector around delivery of all sorts of development. Commercial is not immune from some of the challenges that we've seen in terms of costs on construction costs, on skills costs, on labour, on financing and funding. We're looking at this very carefully. There'll be a viability study that comes to this committee in the next committee in March, alongside the planning obligation supplementary planning document. So members here will have a chance to scrutinise that, will have a chance to look at the evidence to understand the lay of the land in terms of viability before making any decisions on the planning obligations SP supplementary planning document, which is intending to look at some of the costs that we put onto development more broadly, including commercial development within the square mile. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob and Gudrun. On the, sorry, I'm slightly diverting us. On the subject of SPDs, I know there are a suite in the pipeline, and I think the team, you were thinking of offering members a kind of a deep dive session into them ahead of them coming to committee, so people can kind of get their heads around them a bit more. Is that right?
Yes, that's right, Chairman. We have a suite of SPDs that are coming to this committee in March, and we felt it may be helpful to offer to members of this committee a session in advance to ask us questions, to understand the kind of the nuances that sit within those SPDs before we get to the actual committee meeting itself. So we'll, if members feel that would be useful, then we'll sort that out and make those arrangements.
Great, I think that's a yes. There's going to be appetite for that. Fantastic. Okay, with no more questions, are we content to approve then item 7? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 8. Is Isabel here? Oh, there you are. Sorry, you're right at the end. I couldn't see you. Maybe I should have asked people to stand up. I knew it's my fault. Isabel is from City Surveyors, who's here regarding an item 8 City Fund Highway Declaration. It's essentially a slither of land that's being asked to be released. Isabel, perhaps you can just explain it for us.
This is a request for surplus declaration by the committee for a portion of airspace which is affected by the proposed development of 65 Gresham Street. It has full planning consent, which was granted on the 21st of December 2023. This item already came to committee on the 5th of November 2024, and it was granted surplus declaration. But during further due diligence ahead of completion, we noticed that there was a further portion of airspace that needed to be declared surplus affected by the balconies. And that's literally 2.34 square meters, so not very big, but according to procedure, we need to get that declared surplus as well. So I'm requesting committee kindly declare that surplus so we can proceed with the completion.
Thank you. Any questions on that? I think we're happy to declare it surplus, so thank you very much for coming. Good, that's approved. Okay, I have to turn my page now. We're on to item 9, the Fenchurch Street Area Healthy Streets Plan. I think, Bruce, you'll be introducing this, is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Chairman, thank you. Yes, this report covers the Fenchurch Street Area Healthy Streets Plan, which is the latest in a series of plans that we're developing to eventually cover the whole of the city. And we've already had plans adopted for the City Cluster, Fleet Street, Barbican and Golden Lane and Liverpool Street areas. Healthy Streets plans set out high-level proposals for transport and public realm improvements within the areas they cover, and that's to support delivery of the transport strategy. They provide a framework for coordinating investment, including our own public realm improvements and public realm improvements associated with developments. And while the plans set out what we think needs to change on each street, they don't commit us to delivering those changes in any particular way. And any projects to deliver change are subject to funding, our usual project processes, our usual approval processes and consultation as well. We did undertake public consultation on the proposals for the Fenchurch Street area in September and October last year, and responses to that suggest that there's strong support for the proposals within the plan. The plan was also discussed and approved at Streets and Walkways subcommittee at the end of last year and is before you today to adopt. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Bruce. Questions, please. Oh, Edward almost looked like he was asking a question. No, please not. David.
The negative responses in respect to the cycling arrangements, do they relate to the sort of cycle superhighway plans that go through that area that are already being kind of considered and thought about elsewhere?
They relate to the specific proposals for various streets. The main ones where we're looking at potentially delivering significant improvements to people cycling is East Cheap and Great Tower Street for it. They don't relate to the current proposals for the Aldgate to Blackfriars Cycleway, if that's the one you're referring to, for it, because that just passes north of the area through the city cluster.
Any more questions? Deputy Chair.
Thanks. Does this area cover the Monument Junction as well? Because that's a junction we really have been pushing TfL to sort out. And I don't know whether this can be drawn into that to help catalyse that programme.
Yeah, I mean, broadly, we cover the streets that we have responsibility for rather than TfL's for it. But yes, it's definitely would coordinate with that, because that's part of what would then feed into some of the changes that we want to make on some of our own streets for it. And TfL are obviously progressing, well, I say obviously, they are progressing those plans for it, and hopefully we'll have an update on those soon.
Thank you. Any more questions? Deborah.
May I just ask about how we prioritise funding for the various schemes? Because you know, we get lots of schemes that are actually very positive for communities, and then funding isn't available in years past. So I just wondered what the process was for selecting that.
Yes, good question. Yeah, so we, just so members are aware, we largely fund or the proposals in here and the other plans and our transport public realm projects are largely funded through either the on-street parking reserve or community infrastructure levy. So there's some wider work going on around SIL, in particular around infrastructure planning, which is one of the ways that we'll do that. We also do our own prioritisation, which looks at the extent to which and scores projects against the extent to which they deliver the transport strategy, climate action, corporate plan, and other kind of key strategies for it as well. And obviously we're doing that across the whole of the city for it.
Alison Gammon.
Just such a good question from Deborah. Who makes those decisions? I think actually that's important, not how it happens, but does it go to RASC? Does it go to PNR? Does it come back here? Thanks.
Well, the prioritisation exercise that I mentioned is our internal one for deciding which bids to then put forward. Those bids are then decided and considered by an Officer Priorities Board, and then they go on to RASC and PNR.
I was going to say never ask how the sausage is made, Alison, but Bruce, that's fine. Rob, do you want to say something?
If I may, Chair, just to confirm that we're currently in the process of refreshing the infrastructure delivery plan, which will look across the piece at the infrastructure needs of the square mile. That last came to this committee alongside the city plan, I think, when we went out to before we went to submission in 2023. It'll be a standalone piece coming to this committee in the coming months, probably towards the summer, and that will give these members of this committee a chance to scrutinise and to understand what infrastructure requirements are, and to give us a steer on prioritisation. Obviously, the allocation of resources, whether that's community infrastructure levy or other related resources, sits with the Resource Allocation Subcommittee and Policy and Resources Committee, but this committee gets a chance to say these are the priorities for delivery of infrastructure here within the square mile.
Okay, thank you. Good questions. I think, therefore, I can put this for approval. Thank you very much. So item 10 is actually just to take the minutes from the Streets and Walkways meeting on the 9th of December, which was a relatively topical meeting. It's worth just saying on a matter of process, this happened not to go via the chair of that subcommittee before it came to but it is an accurate reflection. There was a question as to whether the vote was recorded in terms of who voted how, but at the time, although I was not there because I was sick, I understand a recorded vote wasn't called for, so you can't post-event ascribe how people voted, even if you have a good YouTube feed. So I think that is where we got to, but I'll ask the Deputy Chair of the subcommittee to add.
Thanks, Tom. I think it was really just because the first bit of that meeting was not recorded and that debate was not recorded. So I think we were just looking for a very, very accurate reflection in the minutes. We have had queries from residents about the vote, but we understand that obviously that can't be recorded in the minutes. So happy to leave it there. But just to for the rest of the committee, that bit of the meeting was not recorded.
So it's worth us just underscoring the importance of these things being recorded, indeed, which is why we slightly delayed this morning's meeting for that same reason. Are we happy to take them for information, or Alison?
Just the process, you said rightly, I think, Tom, that if we'd asked for a vote to be recorded, then it would be recorded. So there's two things. One is it's being recorded digitally, but it's the second thing is I was visually, if you like, recording it. And I was just looking back to my notes in case I recorded it, but I don't think I did. But it was, yeah. Oh, right. OK, good.
I mean, there were only 9 people there, I think, so you can probably figure it out afterwards. Anyway, we are where we are. So that is to take for information. OK, now we get to questions in the public session. I will take them in the order that I received them. The first brace or more are from Alison Gowman. I'll just hand over to you.
Yeah, I asked quite a few. Some of them have been answered. The first one, and I can't believe I'm asking it, it's about flags. But I was struck at the Remembrance Service at the Royal Exchange. There were lots of flagpoles all around the place, and only 2 of them were actually flying a Union Jack, and one of them was flying a commercial owned flag. And I really just wondered whether, and I have asked this question in a roundabout way before, whether there is any guidance that we give to people about flying flags. We do give consent, I believe, to having flagpoles on buildings, and so we do have some control over them. But I know, like 30 years ago, my firm was actually criticised within 2 hours of putting up their own flag on a flagpole that we weren't allowed to do that, interestingly, although the flagpole did belong to Tallow Chandlers, so that might have been the reason why. But we were above their hall. But I just sort of thought there was obviously at that stage some kind of control over it, and we were told to fly the Union Jack on, royal birthdays and this, that and the other. So it should really maybe on Remembrance Sunday or Remembrance Day, and maybe some other Lord Mayor's Show, Lady Mayor's Show Day. I don't know. Could I just ask?
Yes. Well, I will come to our in-house expert. We have the Civic Affairs Subcommittee, otherwise known as Menu Cards, Seating Plans and Flagpoles, which Deputy Lord, you are a long-standing member of. Perhaps you can enlighten us as to our policy on this.
Well, I'm sure that the Chief Planning Officer will be able to correct me, but my recollection is buildings that have flagpoles are allowed to fly the national flag, the Union flag, without planning permission. Any other flag, though question mark whether that includes the city flag, does require some kind of planning permission, unless it is a flag that the Department for Culture, Media and Sport has listed in the national flag policy. So things like the Commonwealth flag, the Pride flag, the Armed Forces Day flag, the Emergency Services Day flag. They are all the things that are listed in the DCMS national policy and therefore can be flown without planning permission. But I think if it's a commercial flag, then it requires planning permission. Just a couple of other comments on this. We have way back in history, certainly I'm thinking about the Queen's Golden Jubilee, the Remembrancer at the time spent some effort trying to persuade organisations that had flagpoles to put the Union flag up for the Jubilee. Part of the difficulty is some of the flagpoles are no longer operational. So you have flagpoles, for example, on the roof of the NED, but you can't fly a flag on it because when the NED works were done, the supporting infrastructure that held the flagpole in place was removed to enable a bar to go into that bit of the building. So there are definitely bare flagpoles around, but they aren't ones that could hold flags.
I think you're absolutely right. Flying national flags generally don't require planning permission. Rather than going into the details of which flags can be flown, what I would suggest is if I share with everybody in committee the government's own guidance on it, which is beautifully termed a plain English guide. So hopefully if I can share that with everybody in committee afterwards.
I think there was an implicit question, though, about whether when we are consenting refits of buildings that have flagpoles, whether we should encourage them to keep them active.
Sorry, if you can also just, the other implicit one is, should we be doing more as the corporation to encourage that in some way?
I think that one would probably be an issue for civic affairs. It's a policy matter, but in terms of planning,
telling people when our approach to when they should be flying things probably.
No, I mean just whether they keep the flagpole active if they have them. One thing.
I can think about it. I think it's probably overstepping planning.
Okay. Noted. Thank you very much. Alison, your second question.
I think I'll defer the last of my 6 questions to private session about the police authority board speeding issue.
Okay.
So
Any
I'm
more?
happy about passing on the others for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Jaspreet Hodgson, you have a question.
Mine was just regarding enforcement. So just around vehicles, noise near residential properties, how is that monitored and enforced? And then another question just on the enforcement team, what is the size of it and have there been any breaches of conditions to vehicle movements or noise in the last 3 years?
Thank you. I think Peter Wilson, you will take these.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This cuts across multiple areas of the corporation, as I'm sure you'll be aware, principally planning and environmental health. So like many conditions, the corporation as planning authority would respond to a complaint from a member of the public or other. When we're talking about environmental health matters, in particular noise, environmental health officers would visit the site, undertake an investigation and evidence, and then collaborate with planning enforcement as to what action is deemed necessary. It may be remedial, it may be actual enforcement of the condition, which may trip into various areas, but usually it would be something that's happened on site and can be remedied quite straightforwardly. In terms of environmental health, it depends on the nature of the environmental health, but effectively all of the environmental health officers act in that capacity. Within planning, traditionally enforcement has been a relatively small element of our role. So we have an officer that is dedicated to that task and supported by development management officers as required, depending on the nature of the complaint. In terms of traffic, we will need to come back to you with a written answer to this committee on the number over the last 3 years and the nature of that. That will require a further search into the nature of specific complaints and how they were processed. I hope that's sufficient.
Thank you. You have a follow-up, Liz.
Thank you, and thank you for that answer. Related to this, I've been having conversations for a while with the chair of Willoughby House, which backs onto Moore Lane. And I'm wondering, we have a lot of conditions around. There's so much building over there. I'm worried about it going forward, and I'll come back to that point. But there seems to be a lot of problems with the servicing of the Deutsche Bank building and the Tenter House building site, where cars, vans and things are arriving early and it's reversing, it's idling, it's 6 a.m. And I don't know whether the conditions aren't written appropriately to protect residents and their residential amenity from early morning activity. And it may sound like not a lot, but the way it echoes around in a canyon like that, it can be a lot louder in the flats than down at ground level. So as I say, I don't know if it's because the conditions aren't written in the right way that it actually achieves what it is, with what it's intended to do, which is to protect noise at antisocial hours, or they're not being enforced appropriately. I can go back to the Willoughby House chair and find out if they've been making complaints to environmental health, but I would assume they are, because that's Robin, yeah, that it would be. Oh, Rachel. But I think we need to, it might be worth having a look at what those conditions were and what is happening now for both Deutsche Bank, because they moved the servicing from one side of the building to the other, as I understand it. And, you know, you've got beep, you know, reversing and beeping and the white noise and checks going on outside the building, not in the loading bays as was intended, is what my understanding of this is. But maybe we need to look at those and for Tenter House about how it's actually, whether there is compliance with both the spirit and the letter. And if we have the wrong conditions, maybe we need to look at how we write them so they achieve what they need to achieve and are intended to. Thank you.
No, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We will look at both the wording of the conditions. We have got very rigorous worded conditions, but we look at that in terms of those two schemes as well. And also we'll pick up on whether or not we've received complaints with our environmental health colleagues. I mean, also, I think as Peter alluded to, we have a training session and to update all members about how we coordinate in an integrated way the kind of management of construction and deconstruction. I think that's before the next planning application subcommittee on 10th of February.
It might be worth having an actual real life example as opposed to just like these ones that we actually talk about how that works. And as I say, I think there's a lot of concern with so much development going on that corner that it could get incredibly loud and it needs rigorous enforcement in that sense.
Absolutely. And our intention is to have a real life example.
Great, thank you. I think that's all. Oh, please go.
Sorry, I didn't give notice, Chair, of my question. It really follows on from my colleague's question. When a construction, a building development is delayed, do we as the councillors in that ward receive a notification of, first of all, the delay and also the reasons for the delay? Because with the Salisbury Court development, I was only able to find out about the delay in the press, which of course then when we have some upset residents and other businesses locally who've been told the development would be finalised by early 2027 and now reading it's at the end of 2027, it then looks as if we're out of the loop. I don't know whether I missed an email, but are we made aware of delays in these developments and the reasons why?
Thanks, Tano. I will ask the director to reply.
As a city, no, we don't notify people because it's obviously new to us sometimes as well. But what we do specifically request from developers and agents is to keep the local community informed of, particularly 120 Fleet Street was a good example. So the aspiration that we always explain to developers is please keep the ward members informed of any delays or any timescale changes.
Well, that obviously hasn't happened, so I don't know, do I need to speak to the developer and email them and ask the question?
Salisbury Square, or is this 120 Fleet Street?
Salisbury Square.
It's our own development, so I'll talk to Paul Wilkinson today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that's the end of questions in public. There's no other business under item 13 that I'm aware of. Can we please exclude the public? Is there any public to exclude? Doesn't look like it. Oh, we'll let the live stream come off.